Hey, this is DP27 with the light, and today I want to talk about Linux. It's time to get away from Windows. It's really easy to get away from Windows. What I'm going to do is show you guys how to set up Fedora 29. I'm also going to show you guys how to get Davinci Resolve 15.1 working with AMD graphics cards, because Davinci Resolve in Linux doesn't work too well with AMD. I think a great distro to start out with is Fedora. I'm also going to show you guys basically a way to get Davinci Resolve 15.1 to work in Fedora 29. I can't get it to work in Fedora 30, so I'm going to have to use Fedora 29, but I want to show you guys the process of setting up Fedora, and basically the steps I use for Fedora 29, all those steps will work for Fedora 30 except for installing Davinci Resolve. So everything else is virtually the exact same. This whole setup on Fedora 29, installing these OPENCL packages, it only works with Vega graphics cards. It's kind of a hacky fix, but it works. Here I am at my desktop, and I have a VPN. That's another thing that I will be showing, setting it up on Linux, not just on Windows, because it's important to have a VPN for your internet security. It's a good thing. Then we need to load up a web browser. I'm choosing Firefox. I already downloaded the ISO for Fedora 29 because my internet's shit. I have satellite internet, so it's just really bad. Do Fedora in Google and see what we get, even though I should be using DuckDuckGo, which I'll go into further. Go to fedora.org, and then when you get to the Fedora webpage, you want to look for Fedora Workstation, click download, and then I want to get the Fedora Media Writer for Windows. Normally I use Rufus, but Fedora is so on their game, they have their own little ISO maker here, which I have not used. Download that. So you want to get a USB and plop that in there. Plop. I've never actually done this part, so let's launch the Fedora Writer. So we don't want to use Fedora 30. We have to figure out a way to get Fedora 29, which I think is fairly simple. I guess we want to run that. Click yes. I agree. Install Fedora Writer. Yes, we'll install Fedora Writer and see what it does. I'm sure it works fine. Click next. Click run. So that's my USB right there, and I'll just click restore. Restore my USB. Restore it. It's all ready to go. So now that we've downloaded Fedora Writer and we've installed Fedora Writer, we need to make sure that we get the ISO of Fedora 29. And currently, as we saw when we went and got the Fedora Writer, all they have right now is Fedora 30 from here, but if you actually go to Google and type in, what is it, Fedora Torrent project, and there's a little, this is another piece of Fedora, but this is actually really cool. They have all their distros listed. And so we want Fedora 29, and they have different flavors if you like KDE or Cinnamon or whatever. I personally like GNOME. GNOME is my favorite, so I am going to click on GNOME and cancel it because I already have it installed, and like I said, I have satellite internet and it's trash. Custom image. Locate the ISO, Fedora 29, click open, and we want to use this one. And then you want to click write to disk. And then boom, there you go. So Fedora 29 has finished. And that's about it on the world of Windows. Now that we went to Fedora's website and we downloaded their ISO and we installed Fedora 29 onto a USB with Fedora Media Writer, now it's time to take that flash, put it in another computer, boot up the BIOS, and we want to pick out the flash. On a side note, you'll notice that I'll have music playing throughout the video. The music is by BioDrive, and I want to give a shout out to him and thank him for letting me use his music. I purchased his music on Bandcamp and asked him if it was okay if I use his music in any of my videos that I make on YouTube, and he said, yeah, that's cool. So I want to thank you, BioDrive, for letting me use your music. I'm going to link his Bandcamp and his SoundCloud in the video description. So yeah, I recommend anybody that's interested, check him out. His music is awesome. So we'll go to settings. Normally to get to the BIOS, you either click delete or F2, sometimes F12, typically delete or F2. And so for me, this is my BIOS setup, and we're going to go to settings, and then we want to go to boot. Once we're in boot, I'm going to go to boot options, and based off what I'm seeing, this could be multiple options for me, but it's either going to be this 1100 partition 2 or just the 1100. So I'm just going to pick both of them. It could even be that one right here, but it's really doesn't matter too much. So let's give it a go, and we'll want to go to save changes and reboot. Start Fedora Workstation Live 29. So here it goes, we're booting up into Fedora 29. And yeah, I really recommend this distro over all the other distros overall. It's extremely easy to use compared to other distros, even though my other recommendations would be Manjaro, Pop! OS, or Ubuntu. Now once we load up the flash, here we are, we have welcome to Fedora, and you can log into the internet if you want. It doesn't really matter with Fedora. Some distros, it can install stuff, but we'll install all that later. So install, do English. Okay, so we picked our language, picked English, and now we want to installation, and we want to pick out our device. And this might look weird to you, I have a lot of drives, but this is actually just an example, and I'm just going to do it on this USB drive. And I would like to make additional space. I like to do this. When I do it, I get to kind of see what's happening. So I go done, and then we'll want to go over here, and this just shows you everything that's on your drive if you wanted to partition it or something like that, but I'm just going to delete all. Reclaim space, and then there's the date and time. Not that it really matters, but I like to do it anyway. And yeah, I guess I'm identifying myself, right? It's actually kind of a lie where I clicked. It's not exactly where I am. It's close, but it's not really where I'm at. Anyway. And then we'll want to click begin installation. And boom, Fedora 29 is now installing onto whatever computer you wanted to install it on. We'll wait for that to finish, and then I'll show you all the steps of setting up Fedora 29, and we will get Davinci Resolve 15.1 working, which has the ability to use Blackmagic Raw, and it works in Linux. So that is awesome. All right, we got Fedora 29 installed. So just quit. And then normally what I like to do is just tell it to shut down. Restarting is problematic because sometimes it just boots right back into the flash drive. It depends on the distro. Ubuntu actually works pretty well, but anyways, best way to do it is power off. And there we go. We have now installed Fedora 29 onto a computer, or in my case, a USB flash drive. Now the next step is to boot up the operating system and start to configure it. So here we are at the desktop. I wasn't able to capture the part where I set up a user account. So when you first install Fedora 29, it's going to boot up and it's going to kind of ask you a couple of questions. It'll ask you if you want to have location services added, or if you want to link like email accounts or anything like that. Do what you want in that regard. And then it will ask you like, should I have a Wi-Fi connection, things like that, and build a username and password, which mine is right here. So you go to account settings, you'll see that my name is DP27 and I have a password. So now let's just set up the desktop. There's a couple different things I like to do, and I'll just kind of show you my preferences and go from there. Hopefully this satellite internet works out. We'll find out. So I like to get rid of a few things here. I like to add the terminal to the shortcut. Boot up the terminal, and I also like to do a little customization. Go to preferences, change the colors. I'm gonna go with some purple because I am weird like that, and some light blue, except I did that backwards. I want it like this. Change the font. Nothing I do here is really all that fancy. It's just a matter of preferences. I actually don't really need to go into the terminal yet. If I go to documents, or actually no, install, I have a couple of things that we are going to use for the whole setup. So basically I have an RPM install script. So this is basically just my script of like all the different commands that you put in to basically set up Fedora 29 the way I set Fedora 29 up. And then we have Davinci Resolve. This is the AMD driver for Red Hat Linux that we're using for the OPENCL, which will allow Davinci Resolve 15 to work. First thing to do when you're in the terminal, you want to do sudo, which basically makes you the admin. And then after that, we want to do DNF update because we just want to update the system the farthest along that it can be updated to. And then it's going to ask you for your password that you set earlier. And we will click yes. Let's see how my internet connection handles 8 megs. Will be a much larger install. Normally, I already did this earlier because I knew my internet was shit, so I was just gonna get a head start on things. That is actually the longest process, is just installing the update. And then after that, you're just installing some repositories and some packages and stuff like that, and in Davinci Resolve. All right, so we've done that. Now, these commands will install RPM Fusion, but I'm going to show you guys how to do it an easier way, I guess, just so that you're aware. So go to Firefox and type in RPM Fusion. Go to rpmfusion.org, and then we want to go to enable RPM Fusion repository. And so there's actually a little GUI that you can use for any particular distro that you're using, and we are using Fedora 29, so click on Fedora 29 free. We have a free and a non-free version, and we want to do both. Just click on that, click install, type in your password. Now we want to select RPM Fusion non-free Fedora 29. And boom, we have both the free and non-free version of the Fusion repository up and running. Now I want to configure Firefox so that you have a little better privacy and so that you're not being tracked as much. Go to privacy and security. We want to delete cookies, clear data, just get rid of whatever that was. We don't want to save our logins. There's really no point to save our logins. Remember your logins, guys. That's what you want to do. Remember your logins. Autofill addresses. No, we do not want autofill addresses. And lastly, never remember history. And boom. Now we want to add a couple of add-ons onto Firefox. So we will go to add-ons, find more add-ons. So now we want to install DuckDuckGo. That's not the one I want. Privacy Essentials. All right, add that to Firefox. And we want to allow this extension to run on private windows. Then for the VPN that I use ExpressVPN. You can use whatever VPN you want, but I find that ExpressVPN works really well for pretty much all the Linux distros. That's kind of why I chose it. add that to Firefox. You have to install this VPN like a specific way for it to work in a way that's more simplistic. It's kind of weird, it doesn't make any sense. Another thing we'll get that I like to use is a YouTube video download. Yeah, this one tends to work pretty good. It's real simple and basic. It just downloads, I think, 720p MP4s. Add that. Yes, just see if that's going. And yeah, there you go, MP4 720p, which is great. So now follow this ExpressVPN, install a desktop app. So the reason we're doing this is it's good to have a VPN. It's good to use DuckDuckGo as a search engine, so you're not being tracked by Google all the time. And the VPN to protect your traffic as it moves through the internet. So I'm going to log in, which I suppose I will probably cut. Now you would have had to set up an account, but I'm not going to show you something that simple. Now I can't really show you guys the activation thing, but there's like a little activation key on this web browser up above that you copy that. You just click on it and just copies it, and then later we're going to do Control-Shift-V to paste it. But as you can see here, it shows a couple different distros. You got Ubuntu, Fedora, Raspberry, Arch. If you look at this, Ubuntu, Fedora, and Arch are like the 3 different types of packaging systems that there are in Linux, which is not actually the name of these distros. It's actually Deb, RPM, and Pacman. That's basically 3 main packaging systems. There's 50 distros. They're all made of those 3 packaging systems. So basically, once you learn that packaging, one of the packaging systems, or you learn all 3 of them, you basically know the basics of installing stuff on all 3 types of distros. So basically all distros at that point. So I'm gonna do 64-bit, and download. And you have to save file if you want it to do something particular that I'll show you. So here's the package. We'll open it up into the terminal. If you type in ls, it'll just show you what's there, which is real convenient because then you can just copy and paste this stuff whenever you need to execute some kind of command. So we will do dnf install ExpressVPN, click enter, and you gotta do sudo for admin. You can do su and actually log in as the administrator, but it's less safe doing that. I've done that before, and sometimes you have to, but it's not really that big of a deal, but it's better to do sudo if you can. And 2 things I'll show you is if you do sudo -i, type in your password, now it logged me in as root. So that's how you could get into root, and then you do pass wd to change the password if you wanted to change the password to your root. But I do not want to do that, and since I did that, I'm going to have to exit out again. ls and sudo ExpressVPN, copy, paste that on there, and click yes. And this is basically, how it's always going to go when you install a package. Now, to get this active, because we want to protect ourselves, ExpressVPN activate. Again, if you're logged into expressvpn.com and you had a VPN account set up, it's $100. A VPN costs like around $100 a year. It's not bad at all. There's a little activation code up above or down below, and you just click on it and it just automatically copies. And then now I'm going to click Control-V and then enter. Now it's activating. And then you want to click yes. This is the benefit of it. If you do it this exact way, for some reason you have to do it this exact way. There's other ways to install the RPM, but this is the only way for that to happen. So now when you log in, you just click on it. Now you're protected with a VPN. Well, okay, to get Davinci Resolve, I guess I'll go over that. To get Davinci Resolve, this is the better way to do it. Blackmagic Design Center. That's the better way to do it. Because when you go to the support center, it's just going to list all the packages that they've listed for a very long time. Like, some people were fussing about the CNG raw codec or whatever, but you can just download the, well, you can just use the current firmware of Blackmagic camera, and you can just go to factory and then go back. But it is a bummer that you can't even have the option to use DNG. 15.3.1, this is the one we'd want. It has Blackmagic Raw, so it works with Blackmagic Raw. It's the first Davinci Resolve that works properly with Blackmagic Raw. 15.3 was working with Blackmagic Raw, but the image was messed up when color grading, and you couldn't color grade because of it. But this one works really well, even with a hacky version on Linux. So yeah, and then you would want to click on Linux, and then we'd want to do download only. That was Studio. You guys probably wouldn't want that. We actually want to get regular, unless you want to pay for the Studio version, which I wouldn't do, because you should just buy a Pocket Cinema camera. Then you get it for free. Fill that out, register, download, and Studio version's easier to simulate. And then you just click on that, click on that. You actually cannot get this. I don't even know why I have this here. There's no point in me showing this to you. You can't download it as far as I know anymore. It's up to 19.1, and there's just no way to download it. So click on OPENCL. These are the packages we're going to install, but not yet. Now let's look at our install script. So first thing, let's go to the Software Center, and then we can go to Software Repositories, and we want to install third-party repositories. So from here, if you have a NVIDIA graphics card, you could just click on RPM Fusion Fedora 29 non-free and just enable it from right here from the software repository. If you download the NVIDIA driver, you don't have to do this OPENCL thing I'm doing for AMD. Basically, you just have to activate that, and you can just download Davinci Resolve, and it will just work out of the box. This particular video is for AMD Vega graphics cards. From here, we'll enable the Steam repository. Just go ahead and click on RPM Fusion Fedora 29 non-free Steam and click enable. It'll ask for your username and password, so type in your password. Now let's go back to our install script. This part is pretty straightforward and pretty easy. Basically, I just have a bunch of commands for all the different applications that I use, and we're just going to run right through all of them, and it goes by fairly quickly. So the first application we're going to get is GNOME Tweaks. GNOME Tweaks is just a good application for basically customizing the desktop to your liking. It's a very basic tool, but I just put it on here if I ever feel like I want to try to customize the desktop from the vanilla GNOME that Fedora 29 comes with. And we're going to install it on using the software application app. I'm going to kind of show you guys some in between using the terminal or just using the software application, which is more simple and streamlined. So we'll type in GNOME Tweaks. There's GNOME Tweaks. Click install. The one thing I really like about GNOME is basically just this window key. You can see here that all I have to do is just click the window key. When you do that, it just shows you all the windows that you have open, and you basically get to pick out whichever one you want to use at the given time, and it just goes straight to that window. At the right hand corner, you're going to notice that there are different workspaces that you can use. You can have a bunch of windows on one desktop, switch over to the other one, grab any window from that other desktop, bounce all over the place. You can have like 5 or plus more workspaces, which is too much for me at that point anyways, but yeah, I really just like the way GNOME works. You can just kind of fly through the desktop and just move to any application at any time or moment on the fly, and that's just really nice to have that kind of ability. That's why for me personally, GNOME's still my favorite. I'm sure KDE, being as versatile as KDE is, that I could probably figure out a way to set it up to operate a lot like GNOME, but I have not figured out a way to do that for me personally, and I haven't had the time to figure that out. And yeah, so now GNOME Tweaks is installed. So right now we're just going to install this antivirus software that you don't really need at all in the world of Linux, but I just did research on antivirus protection for Linux, and this is what I found, so I just installed it on my computer. Copy that. We're going to use the terminal for this antivirus. Paste that, sudo dnf install clamav clamtkey, and click enter. Type in your password, click yes, and boom, it's installed. And now the next application we're gonna get, this is a package for exFAT hard drives, so that when you plug in an exFAT hard drive, Linux will detect it, it will let you use it, and you can go into it and copy any files into the desktop. Go ahead and copy that, paste fuse exFAT, click yes, and then it'll ask you to click yes again, so click yes. Alright, now we got that. And then there's another little install utility that comes with it. Copy that and paste that and download that package. I'll take a moment here just to show you guys a quick look at GNOME disk management system that GNOME has. Press the window key and type in disk, and then you'll see disk. Click on that. And this just shows you all your hard drives, and you can customize this to your liking. Edit the boot options to how the hard drives open up. Okay, the next application we're gonna get is Transmission, which allows you to download torrents. I don't really use it too much anymore, but I still grab it just because it's really great at what it does. And then we're gonna grab Open Broadcaster. Open Broadcaster, a lot of people know it. It's amazing. Basically, you can just record or stream an assortment of different displays all at once and swap between them at any moment or time and have different audio tracks and recordings going at the same time. Go ahead and grab that. So for that, it would be sudo dnf install OBS Studio. So we'll copy that and we'll paste that into the terminal. Click yes. Go ahead and move over to Audacity in the software management, because that's an application that's in the software. So after we install OBS, there's a couple other little packages we're going to install, something that's good to get for basically any kind of video application. So we'll paste those, and then a little configuration command as well, and then another set of install of GS Streamer. Alright, now we're going to sudo dnf Audacity, which is just a really basic audio editing tool that I use. Sometimes I convert MP3s to waves using this. It's been a very staple, free, open source audio software. So we'll grab that. And then we'll get VLC, which is a video player. A lot of people use it. It's really great. And yeah, I always install it on a computer that I have. Alright, so we got Audacity, we got VLC, audio, video players. Now let's move on to gaming. So the first thing I like to do for gaming is grab Play on Linux. Basically, it's a very simple way of installing Wine. I kind of like to do this before Steam. Steam is sort of a forked variation of Wine. It's called Proton. Basically, what I like to do is install Play on Linux, install the current edition of Wine, and then after doing that, then I'll install Steam and just let Steam do whatever it does, whatever it throws over the top. And then once it finishes, I will grab Winetricks. Winetricks is just an add-on to Wine. And then we're gonna grab Letras, which is another nice little application. I've been using it a lot for installing emulators. You can actually link it to Steam, and yeah, it's just a very versatile gaming platform for Linux. Definitely want to grab that. I'll just show you guys Proton. Proton is a mail service and it's encrypted. Highly suggest you kind of use Proton as your main email source. Use Gmail probably as your secondary, because obviously you kind of still need a Gmail account because there's so much you can do with the Gmail account. But for your most private email, I would choose Proton Mail would be a good choice. And then we'll sudo dnf install Steam, grab that, paste that into the terminal, click yes, and Steam will install. Alright, now we're basically getting to some photo and video editing softwares. So Darktable, it's a photo editing software. We will sudo dnf install Darktable, paste that into the terminal, click yes. Now we'll sudo dnf Raw Therapy, which is what I would use with my Blackmagic because it uses DNG that Raw Therapy supports and Darktable does not. So sudo dnf Raw Therapy, click yes. Again, these are just applications that I like to use. I'm just kind of showing you guys my whole process. So after Raw Therapy, the next application we're going to install is Kdenlive, which is another video editing software. It's a free and completely open source video editing software. It's an application that I kind of want to learn more about for video, just because even though I'm showing you how to get Davinci Resolve 15.1 to work, I'm pretty annoyed at this point with Resolve currently only kind of supporting NVIDIA and not really supporting AMD, and aren't supporting AMD's open source drivers is basically today's standard. They're still using the proprietary drivers, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So yeah, Kdenlive seems like a great software to use. right here are the basically all those OpenCL packages that I'm showing you guys. Basically this is the command to basically run all of those at once. Alright, after we install all these different applications, the thing I like to do is basically just restart the entire computer and reboot, and then I actually like to open up all the applications and see that they're running smoothly. So we're back at the desktop, check out VLC, VLC is working, launch Audacity, Audacity's working, there's that virus thing that I never use, launch Darktable, Darktable is working, check out Raw Therapy, Raw Therapy is working, OBS, OBS looks good, check out Play on Linux. And so for Play on Linux, we're gonna go to Manage Wine Versions, and from there we can install both 32-bit and 64-bit version of Wine. We will select whatever the newest one is, that's what I typically do, which is 4.1 staging at the moment. So I'll install 32-bit version of that, then we will grab 64-bit 4.1 staging. Then I'll open up Lutris, and Lutris looks good. You can install some emulators here. RPC S3, that's one of my favorites. Now we'll launch Steam. Steam's got a little update. Do your logging into Steam and all that jazz. Steam's launched. Everything looks good. Alright, now we'll just check out Kdenlive real quick, and boom, there's Kdenlive. Everything looks good on that end. Okay, so let's extract Davinci Resolve. Go into the Davinci Resolve folder and just click on it, and then this pops up. Boom. Agree, install, type in your password. I know we'll ask you for your password again when you reach the end. Okay, so now Davinci Resolve is installed. I like to do a reboot after doing this. So I'm gonna reboot. Okay, we're back up and running. Actually, a couple little things I want to do. I just want to make things pretty. So now let's launch Resolve and do the welcome tour to avoid any possible downsides. Because again, this is Linux. It's not officially supported. Fedora is not supported. It's CentOS OS is what's supported. Oh no, my graphics card doesn't work. We want to quit out of this. Go to the OpenCL folder. Open in the terminal. So we basically want to install these packages to fix that. So again, ls, and those shows all the packages. You could copy them, do sudo dnf install, and then paste each one of them. But I'm gonna link the script when I post the video, so all you really have to do is copy that over instead, and it will say everything installed except for OpenGPU Core, and we're good to go on that. Now we're going to do a couple other things. So if you want to make your icons look pretty, basically want to enable this repository, then we'll install the Papyrus icon theme. And now I'm gonna show you how to install some sensors so that you can look at how your system's doing. So now we want to detect the sensors. It's gonna ask you a bunch of questions. They say warnings and stuff like that, but people in forums and stuff always say just say yes to everything, and that's what I've been doing, and I've never had a problem. So now to be on the safe side, I'm gonna recommend that you just reboot after doing all those installations. All right, we're at the moment of truth. Go ahead and launch Davinci Resolve. It all hinges on this. Oh my gosh, oh, it worked. Wow, it worked, jeez. Yeah, and there's my my real exciting Blackmagic Raw video. Look at that. Whoa, look at that, boom. So that is Blackmagic Raw 4K 30. Look at that horse just staring at me. That horse really does not like to be filmed. And there's another shot of the horse. Boom. I think is probably this one. It always kind of depends. It's always a little bit of a toss up there. But yeah, there we go. Davinci Resolve working on Linux. along with gaming and everything like that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video of how to install Fedora 29 step by step, basically showing you the way I set up my operating system and showing you how to get Davinci Resolve up and running with Vega graphics cards. And I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe if you would like. This is DP27, The Light. I'm out of here.